Dun, 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 dun. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum. What's up, party people in the house?
What up, though?
Welcome to It's Live, one of the sexiest voices in the SFL.
Mr. Divas.
That's right, we all have inner divas.
I have more diva in my little finger than you.
That finger, use that snap.
Listen, guys can be divas.
You guys, I'm gonna win Diva Week.
We can be free. We can be anything in life we wanna be. We can move mountains. We can break walls. We can stand tall enough to fight and never fall. We could be legends after all. Hey, whoa, whoa.
Divas.
That's right, we all have inner divas.
I have more diva in my little finger than you.
That finger, use that snap.
Listen, guys can be divas.
You guys, I'm gonna win Diva Week.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Now there you go.
Finds it to 25, breaks a couple of tackles. Headlock and a go! Headlock and a go! He could go all the way!
Where's the peanut? We'll find his way to the end zone. Touchdown, Los Angeles. What's up, party people of the SFL? How'd you like those Diva of the Week videos put together by Wink? We didn't have those ready to go yet on weeks 1 and 2, so now we do, and now you get to see them. They're also posted in the Access Live Discord server for your viewing pleasure. So welcome and thank you for tuning in to season 16, episode 6. Again, I know last time I said episode 6. It was actually only episode 5. I guess I was getting a little ahead of myself. I don't know. Anyway, I'm your host, Dave Axes, and we have another great show for you tonight. And we have another great panel here to break things down for us, recap week 3 games of season 16 in the SFL. We had a few surprises this week that I'm sure will shake up our power rankings on Thursday night. But for now, tonight, in addition to our panelists breaking down games, we'll also have Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom. We'll have our Week 3 Diva of the Week nominees and another very special guest on Access After Dark, the head of written content for the SFL, Mr. Slyn Shady, is in his house. So all of that to look forward to tonight. And don't forget, tonight, Tyler Falk will be jumping on for just a minute to let us know about what's on his show tomorrow night on Wednesday on Next on Netma. So there you go. We have a packed show, and it looks like we got a packed party house too. Let's check out the party people. Oh, Pink Lisa, my lovely wife, the first one in. What's up, Pink Lisa? Frank is here. Nate Hall is here. Charles, I love Oak Barrel wine and Porsches. I guess I don't know if he's trolling me or if he just wants to beat me. I don't know. Oh, CB12, what's up? Great win this week. Ray, same to you. Bob Funk is in the house. Jeff Gagne, Allen's here. Bullet Boletsky, Max Jackson is in the house. Who we got? Nacho, party people, what's up? Ramos Lynn's here. The Crim Reaper's back. Bo Martin Jr., I hope he's here. Tom Rahman, good to see you, bro. Winkler's here, of course. Doug Britton, Chad, Boonberry, Truceman. Wow, there's a lot of people here. Art Vandelay, of course. Mr. Law, the long arm of the law is here. Alienation 777, what's up? Kendra Hall, good to see you. DR Sim, what's up, bro? Benji Matson's in the house. Sexy Benji, what's up? Bridge City Bird is here. Let me see. James Walters 87. And I think that's the last one that I see sneaking in before we get to our panel. Looks like it is. So anyway, welcome back to the show. We've got a great panel for us. Tonight, the very first person in the unscripted circle. He's been here before. He'll be back many times again. But for tonight, he's taken off the leadoff spot, and that is the GM of the Vancouver Legion, Mr. Mike Prococo. Coco, what's up?
He'll be back again. You're selling yourself there, aren't you?
Oh, bro, I speak it into existence. You know what's up. How's it going tonight?
People. It's going good.
What animal's on your head? Is that a squirrel? Did you steal that hat from Tom Rahman or something?
Can we not spot? We got lots of time to get to this.
Okay, well, it's literally sitting right there in everyone's face, bro. Come on.
Listen, Before we go on to the next person, what about that Portland defense? That's all I got to say.
Okay. We
Next
will
person.
we will definitely talk about that. All right, next person in the unfiltered circle, the assistant GM of Jacksonville. He's all about being in the number 2 spot tonight. Mr. Mike All is back with us. Mike, what's up with you?
Hey, Dave. I thought we were just hanging out. I didn't know there was a show on
Yeah,
tonight.
you just never know, bro. You never know. We just pop them up Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. It doesn't really matter. Whatever day of the week. This is like the Mike and Mike show already. I hope
Yeah.
we don't have any more mics. Jeez Louise. All right, welcome back, bro.
Thanks.
Let me see real quick before I get to the next. Tom Rahman, I already said him. Looks like a couple more people hopping in the chat. All right, in our unedited circle, he's been on the show before, but this is his first time on the new format, and he is a free agent signee of the glorious Lone Star Glory, playing cornerback for my team. The one and the only Bo Martin Jr. is in the house. Bo Martin Jr., what's up?
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you really well. How you doing tonight?
I'm well, Mr. Axis. It's a pleasure to be here, sir.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for being on tonight. Appreciate it. And then, of course, in the unforgettable circle, last, certainly not least, well, maybe. We'll see. Staying up late for us, took a nap earlier today because he is thousands of miles away and hours ahead on the clock. The general manager for Las Vegas, Slyn Shady, is with us. Slyn, this is also your first time in this format, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad that you can now see my tired face as well as hear my tired voice.
Well, you know what?
Appreciate the,
You know how it is. You want to put a face with the voice, bro.
yeah, I mean, well, I've got my hat on, I've got my tea in my hand and a little flask going on, and
I'm
I'm
sure that's
even in
tea.
bed. I'm even in bed, so I'm as cozy as you can get.
Well, I might want to save that information for the after dark portion of the show, which, by the way, everybody will be Slyn Shady on the after dark portion tonight. All right, I want to jump right into this, you guys. But before I do, I want to ask a question. I want to go around one time. I want to ask a certain question to each of you. Probably be good if I actually had it pulled up and ready to go. Jack's Data sent me some interesting information this week, and I want to read it to you. They said, based on our recent data, 70% of teams that start off 2-1 make the postseason. So that's 9. There's currently 9 of those, so 6 of those will make the playoffs. My first question is, who are the 6 or who are the 3 that you think will miss it that are 2-1 right now? And you don't have to give me 6 or 3. You can just give me 1 or 2 of either one. Coco, let me start with you. Give me at least one team that's currently 2-1 that you think will, and then one that you think will not make the playoffs this season.
Dude, I don't know everyone's record. Jesus.
Dude.
You give me 3 games,
bro.
And then I just focus on that, and
that's why I sent you guys the message. Look at Coco messing up my show already. Unbelievable.
Loop around.
Doesn't want to talk about a hat. Doesn't want to answer
Listen, I like to get things right.
All right, let's see if Mr. All is actually prepared this evening. Mike All, give me a team that you think right now is 2-1 that will make the playoffs and one that it will not make the playoffs.
All right, so as far as 2-1 teams, obviously Jacksonville's going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
Team that won't make the playoffs. As much as I'd hate to go against my friend here, I don't think Fort Worth is going to make it.
Okay. All right. Bo Martin Jr. Give me a team that's 2-1 that will make the playoffs and one that will not make the playoffs.
All right. Well, my 2-1 team is it's kind of automatic. I almost feel bad saying it, but Baltimore's going to make the playoffs. So that's my 2-1 team that's going to make the playoffs, and that's I don't even think that'll be a surprise. Mike actually stole my one that was probably going to miss the playoffs, but I'm going to go ahead and second that Fort Worth Toros. I don't think they're going to get it.
Wow. Okay. All right, Slyn. Last the question to you as well. Give me a team that's 2-1 that will make the playoffs and a team that's 2-1 that will not make the playoffs.
I'm going to give some love to Fort Worth. I think Fort Worth have looked pretty good over the last not even the last few weeks, like even the end of last season. And I think defensively they're very solid. So that'll create a great base for them to sort of push forward and make the playoffs. Teams that are not going to make the playoffs, I think, I don't want to go against London because I used to play in London, but I would want to see that kind of performance consistently that they had in Arizona, and I don't, that could be a bit of an anomaly this season. So they're the team that I would choose to maybe not make the playoffs from 2-1.
Okay. I have another question for you guys at the break after Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom. Mike Coco, before we get things started, though, you want to answer our current question?
See, maybe I did it on purpose because the Swarm are 2-1, and I think that's a pretty obvious choice of someone who's going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
And then who's not out of that list? I mean, I would love to say Carr, but I know that they would find my house and beat me. So man, there's a lot of good teams on there. Right now I'm gonna have to actually say I kind of question Mexico City at the moment. I think they're going through some changes in their playbook and some growing pains. But I still need to see them find their way come week 5 or 6 when they get some progressions in.
Okay. All right. Your second question will come to you guys at the break. So let's get this started. Coco, sticking with you. Game 1 this past weekend. The power. Oh, real quick note to everybody. Sorry, Wink. Remember that on Tuesdays the power rankings stay with the teams from the weekend. We don't change the power rankings until Thursday. And remember, the power rankings are a combination of Jack's Data's current, Slyn Shady's power rankings, the Axis poll, and then we combine the 3, take an average, and that's how we get our numbers. So the numbers you'll see starting with game 1 with Coco here in a moment are all from this past weekend. So Coco, we had what we thought was going to be the game of the week, number 1 versus number 2, the defending champs going to possibly the best team in the SFL, but it didn't live up to the hype. What happened?
I don't know. I think it lived up to the hype for me. This is kind of what we expected to see last year. Somebody had an injury, and unfortunately, the semifinals weren't as competitive as we thought they were going to be. This pretty much looked like what we thought we were going to get out of Denver. Methodical defense, hold them. You'll notice the biggest stat line there, of course, is the third down conversion. And when your third down percentage is like that, you're not going to be able to win in this league. If you want to be sub 50%, 45%, then maybe you can have a chance if it's a battle. But that's just not going to do it.
So you're saying that you thought this lived up to the hype?
Yeah, because I expected Denver to win the championship last year.
Right, but did you not think this would be a closer game, maybe coming down to the wire, Baltimore at least having a chance to win the game?
I don't know. The things we've seen out of Denver the past season and this season, he's very methodical and good at what he does. And I think we're going to continue to see this trend the entire season through. He has his defense down. And, when it comes to the run game this year, it looks really good for that team.
Hey, hi, Ethan Kai. I know you're only saying hi to me and you're only here because you saw my profile pic today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let me just address the elephant or the hyena in the room. If you remember, after week 1, I had a bet with Doyle, and for profile pick for a week, we beat Florida, so he had to put a Lone Star profile pick. This past weekend, we fell about a foot short of beating Houston, and therefore I have to live up to the bet. I will be sporting a Houston Hyena profile pick until our next game. So there you go, Ethan. You're welcome. Anyway, all right, Coco. So McChesney has a great day, 142 yards. Josh Miller throws more touchdowns than interceptions. You already talked about their defense. Anything else stand out to you before we move on?
No, I mean, as you can see, pretty even in terms of turnovers and takeaways, 2-1. So again, it was just basically Baltimore gets on the field, Denver sends them off the field, and that was it.
Okay. Well, as we remember, Jack's Data had Denver favored by 3.5. They more than covered that. Over under a 52.5, which is really good with 47 points scored in the game, which was great. And SFL Nation, we jump out the gate week 3 with a win, choosing Denver 113-93 in the Who You Got. So maybe we'll make up for last week and do a little better. Moving on to game 2, Carolina at Florida. Me personally, Michael, because I play for Lone Star, we've played both these teams. We beat Florida, but lost to Carolina. Now Carolina goes and beats and loses to Florida. It's like this triangle between the 3 teams. When it comes to power rankings between these 3, I wouldn't even know who is better. How was Florida able to hang on and squeak out a 3-point victory?
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard that this was actually the first ever meeting between these 2 teams or not. I know they kept that pretty hush hush. I mean, they only said it like 100 times.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure I heard that.
But so the game started off with 3 punts off of 3 consecutive drives. It didn't start out very very well. The one difference, however, was Marcus Agrippa for Florida. He pinned Carolina at the 4, and then Florida's defense forced a 3 and out, which then Carolina's punt left Florida with great field position. They drove down the field, but Carolina's defense held, and Florida was forced to kick a field goal. On Carolina's next drive, Florida picked it off, and Florida took only 3 plays to give the ball right back on an interception in the end zone. It was pretty fun to watch. Carolina finally put together a decent drive, powered by Logan Jack, and managed to kick a field goal to tie things up at 3. On the ensuing drive, Ron Cochran drove the Storm downfield and hooked up with Meyer, the backup tight end, for a score. On Carolina's next drive, Xander Gold made some good plays, and they got some big first downs from Logan Jack and Heath McDaniel Jr., ultimately ending in a touchdown by Tony Zoman to tie up the game once again. The 2 teams were basically playing a game of anything you can do, I can do too. The first half ended on a punt by Florida to keep it tied up at 10. They were pretty even stat-wise at the half, so it was really a question of who could get it done in the second half. However, the second half started out weakly again with a punt from both teams, but then the Storm finally got things going with big plays from E.J. Minson and Charlie Blitzky, finally capping off with the touchdown run by Bullet Blitzky. Florida held Carolina to another punt, so the back and forth was finally put to a stop. Florida then drove it down the field, ending with an Ethan Snead doink off the left upright, their lead to 20-10. On the next drive, as he did occasionally during the game, Gold seemed to want to keep going to Logan Jack in the flats, but a lot of them kept forcing Logan Jack out of bounds, or with no gain or a loss on the play. Gold just needed to make better decisions on his throws or improve his timing there. Fortunately, Carolina's defense finally stepped it up against Florida, but it seemed a little too late at that point. Carolina seemed to be on a good drive on the ensuing possession, but Evan Carroll picked it off to bring that drive to a screeching halt. Carolina did stop Florida on the next drive and gave the ball back to their offense. And their offense was driving well until a pass to Mike Odinson was called for a fumble on the catch. However, Carolina smartly challenged that and got the call overturned because it was not a catch. They kept their drive going, managed to pick up a first down and 4th and 1. They went to the hurry up, which seemed to throw Florida's defense off balance, and managed to put it in the end zone with Heath McDaniel Jr. Unfortunately, they didn't really manage the clock well, so with 20 seconds left, they tried an onside kick, which Florida easily recovered, and then just knelt down to finish off Carolina in what I've been told is their first ever matchup. Overall, their stats were pretty even, as you can see on the graphic there. The big difference here was Carroll's interception, and then Charlie the Bullet Blitzky took on player of the game for this one.
Yeah, I was noticing not only are all the stats in the graphic all pretty even, but as you were talking, I'm looking at both quarterback play and both running backs played very even. So literally the difference of this game was a doink field goal that got Florida over the hump. Jack's data had Florida favored by 3. Can't get much better than that. 45.5 on the over-under, which is definitely within the 10-point range that we talk about. And SFL Nation 2-0 out the gate on Saturday, 154-54. So 100 more votes for Florida over Carolina as we move into St. Louis at Louisiana. What a great game this was. I mean, not so great, Bo, for Louisiana now dropping 0-3 while St. Louis goes to 3-0.
Well, that was the
But
best part.
but the game itself, was great.
Yeah, it really was a great game, and you know, as everyone takes a look at the numbers, you'll see that it was a pretty even game. There's one glaring exception that you'll see, and that's what we'll focus on. If you look at the St. Louis takeaways, you'll notice there says 6 takeaways. Mr. Pickler handed the ball to St. Louis or 6 times, and that kind of made it really tough. It really handicapped. Louisiana. And I think that's it. Well, I don't think. I know that's the reason that Louisiana lost the game because they were still able to keep it close. It was a great game. In fact, of the 3 games that I reviewed, this was the closest game that I reviewed. And Louisiana kept it close. I will give kudos to the Gladiators for kind of shutting down Reggie Streeter. I mean, of course, you're never going to shut him down in the screen pass game,
Right.
but they did it. They held them to around 70 yards or so. They held them to 70 yards or so, and so they were able to kind of shut them down in the rushing game. So, but it was a great game overall. Everything's time of possession was almost identical. And Louisiana just got, you know, they're kind of off to a rough start, but I think they'll get it together.
Well, here's what's interesting, right? You were talking about Johnny throwing 6 interceptions. You know, he had his press conference. Christian Brown responded with his press conference. Christian Brown didn't have an outstanding game. He only threw 1 touchdown. He threw 2 picks, but he was able to manage it enough to win. So, do you think going forward is that St. Louis's strategy? Just have Christian Brown manage the game just enough to win?
And that's the exact word I have written down here on my notes here for Christian Brown is game manager, because that's exactly what he did. Is he just managed to, you know, his completion percentage was 74.19. He threw for 250 yards, not a bad day, but like you said, only 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions. So, you know, basically St. Louis kind of leaned on their defense to take care of everything, and it did its job. And so all Christian Brown had to do was just not play as bad as Johnny Pickler did that game, and you know that, and he was able to successfully do that. And listen, St. Louis is 3-0, so right
Yeah.
now, if Christian Brown, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So pretty much all Christian Brown has got to do is be average, which is, you know, and that's not a knock on Christian, but he doesn't have to be great. If he can just be average, it seems like St. Louis's defense is going to pick him up.
Yeah, it's probably best if rookie quarterbacks are good managers their rookie season anyway, before they really start to show off. Unless your name's Bryant Dynasty, I guess. But Jack's data had this game, Bo, minus 3.5 for Louisiana. They did not cover. 47.5 on the over under. A little outside our window that we talk about. And this is the first loss for SFL Nation. Who you got? 121-82. We took Louisiana. I have a feeling we're going to be taking Louisiana every week until we see a W from them. Put a W on the board. All right, Bo. Thank you, bro. Moving on to game 4 on Saturday. We don't really need to spend a lot of time on this one, Slyn. Not my favorite game, but here's the thing. Houston really put it to us. And we had a good fourth quarter. We fall a foot short from stealing the game away. But how was Houston able to just manage us all game long?
It's a shame that you don't want to spend much time because I've got a very detailed play-by-play analysis
I'm sure you do.
right
Bro.
now. It was a weird game where not too much would happen within the quarter, but then you get to the end of the quarter and then there'd just be a spark of activity, and it seemed to come down to Houston's special teams, weirdly enough, being just playing better than Lone Stars. So I mean, first of all, I loved the start of the game. There was no announcers. There was old school unis. It was almost like it was from like the 1980s. It took me till the fourth quarter to realize that Houston were in blue. It was a very confusing game. I'm glad I had to watch it again. But yeah, I mean, both teams came out looking okay. They had to settle for field goals, and that was pretty much it until the end of the first quarter, until Deuce Fennick muffed a punt and gave Houston really good field position, which they again got into the field goal. And in the second quarter, it just seemed like Houston were able to, I don't know, they were just in control of the field position battle. They were in control of the clock. And yes, they threw a pick to Evan Lacey in the end zone. And that seemed like that was dying down in the second quarter until Kai Cash then comes and blocks the punt. And Houston, which was interesting because loads of people started then calling home field advantage. I noticed the chat started going off. Which
Yeah,
was quite funny.
I don't know that I believe that. I mean, those two special teams were probably the difference in the game, but I wouldn't chalk that up to HFA.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I thought I found it quite funny. And if I can have any chance to prod at people and annoy them, then I will do. And then Houston got a field goal and it was 9-3 at the half. And to be honest, it seemed like Houston should have been further ahead. I mean, they were always in really good field goal position. I bet if you looked at their starting position for their drives compared to Lone Star, it'd be night and day. And it nearly came back to haunt them in the end. I mean, the third quarter was, it didn't start great for Lone Star again. Threw a pick to that man Kai Cash, but then Houston had to settle for another field goal, and then it kind of nothing really happened until Lone Star showed some life. Beautiful pass to Deuce Fennick from Ace. Marco Swift, who'd been played great all game, got beat on that play, and Fennick got the touchdown. But then again, Houston just dominated the field position battle. Got a really good punt into like the 4 at a really important time, and it meant that when Lone Star punted, because Houston held them on defense, Houston started at the 35 of Lone Star, so that field position battle seemed to be key. But then it looked like Houston were going to hold on for the sort of 22-17 victory. After, I'm trying to remember who scored the touchdown. Kyle Finnemore scored a touchdown for Houston. Until Greg Soto, I forgot about this because I remember seeing this live at the time, getting tackled at the 1.
Yeah,
that was exciting. I mean, I bet you were out your seat
Oh,
and sat
absolutely.
quickly back down. And it seemed like Lone Star might actually pull off some would say undeserved victory on the road, but I guess a lot of people say if you've won, then you deserve to win.
Right.
Zach Turner of all people got the sack with the last play of the game on Fennick, and Houston were able to get a well-earned win. And then one last little word from me is that I appreciated T-Roy using the term old fogey to describe himself. I have not heard that term in years used at all. So
nice. Well, we have a
Very
lot
nice
of old
of them.
fogies on Lone Star too, but a couple quick comments in the chat. DR Sim note mentioned that Lone Star, he says Lone Star played great defense. We were in the red zone, Houston, 7 times, only scored 1 touchdown in the game. So props to our defense for that. I do want to make a note that in the game chat during the game, Marco Swift had just knocked the ball out of my hand, and we was talking trash, and then 2 plays later, I scored a touchdown on him. So I just want to throw it out there. I just want to throw that out there for Marco Swift. He brought that up again today. And then, of course, I got to give props to Cam. Poor Cam. Nobody laughed at his joke about me the first time, so we had to put it in a second time in the chat, and nobody's laughing again. Sorry, Cam. It's not your night, bro. Don't know what to tell you. Let me see. Jack's Data had Lone Star favored by 7.5. We definitely didn't cover that. Over under 51.5. We didn't catch that with only scoring 39 points. And SFL Nation 2-game losing streak, 166-41. Took Lone Star. I don't know. It's going to be like every week people are going to pick Lone Star to win, and we haven't been winning, and they're picking Louisiana to win, and they're not winning. I don't know if this is a hand-in-hand thing or not, but moving on to Game 5 on Sunday, this was the game of the week. This was the most exciting game, Coco, I would say, of the year thus far through 3 weeks. What a barn burner. Puts LA at 3-0 with just a handful of other teams. Tell me about this barn burner of a game between Vegas and LA.
You mean this game didn't end 13-7, the score of the first?
No, imagine that.
So yeah, I bought this hat on Thursday, not realizing that the game was actually going to be what my hat said, and that is nuts. This is one of the most exciting games that I've watched all year, and it was pretty much, I mean, whoever that coach is over there at Las Vegas, he realized he had a rookie quarterback and just decided that he was going to throw the ball as much as possible. And so did his friends over in LA.
Right.
We had here a 410 passing yards versus 332 on the offensive side, and that was just the passing. We do have two running backs as well who put up 107 and 170 yards. So yeah, a 54-44. It was mostly offense. There wasn't much defense here. Unless, of course, you let's see. Should I go down this massive list of confusion?
Knock yourself out, bro.
Even on the soft side, I would just want to give a shout out to Danny Stinson, who alone in this game, who had 3 pass deflections. We all know how hard that is to get out there. Who also had a tackle and 4 assisted tackles. Okay, that alone would be a great game. But Ray had an interception. Peanut Say had an interception. Oh, and Ryan Joseph, what are you doing, man? You get that many picks and you put up only what, 67 yards? That's it?
Well, at least he ran one back to the house, I guess.
Okay.
That was like half the yards right there, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I expect at least 100 to drop if you're going to get that many picks in a game, which was 4.
I'm with you on that.
Okay, and then I don't even want to run down on the Las Vegas, but you know what? How about this? How about we shout out Slyn? Because there's going to come a point in the season where he's emo and he talks to coach, and they both say, "We just didn't do what we should have done this year on defense." So Slyn, 3 assisted tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, and a pass deflection. You did a good job, son. You shouldn't be upset with yourself. So when you're talking to coach, you did okay. Just remember that when you self-evaluate yourself at the end of the season.
Also, Coco, Slyn, didn't you hit a milestone this weekend?
Yeah, I hit 700 tackles, which sounds like the most insignificant milestone anyone's ever hit, to be honest.
I knew you were going to demoralize yourself, and thank you. But yeah, I mean, that was the sum of the game. It really was. Is Slyn had a rookie quarterback. He knew what he had to do. If he had any chance of beating the Lycans, he was going to have to go out there and throw that ball around. And I think LA kind of knew that they didn't know that they had to throw the ball, but they figured, why not? And this is what happened when friends play football. They even had like a little Discord party, and they all just yelled at each other the entire night. So,
well, we know that Cam is in the chat because he's in there trying to be funny with jokes, and he's failing miserably. But failing miserably. Oh, isn't that your name of your memoirs, Cam? He's like, no, I'm not. 4 people laughed at my joke out of what? Let's see, out of 64. That's pretty good, bro. That's not bad. Anyway, first of all, congrats, Slyn, to you. Second of all, Cam, this has to be your first serious contender for Game of the Year, by the way. All right. Jack's data had over and under at 54.5. How'd they do on that, Coco? Not too great. That's about half of what they scored. They scored 98 points.
They're very close to what the Lycans alone scored. How about that?
Right? Oh, maybe that's what he meant. This game was a pick'em, so that really doesn't matter. And we are back in the win column, SFL Nation. We took LA 132-73, which is a little bigger than I expected. But you guys were right. So we move into the last game on Saturday at 3-2. Let's see if we can at least maybe we can be 4-2. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Mike All, Charleston at Sioux Falls. I think when everybody saw this game on the schedule before the season started, we're like, this is going to be a hell of a matchup. Unfortunately, Sioux Falls has not been playing well. So going into this week, we're like, maybe not. But it was still a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a story of 2 halves here. Sioux Falls defense was dominant in the first half. Charleston's first play to start the game was an interception by A.J. Levy. However, Charleston's defense shut Sioux Falls down and forced a 3-and-out. Swearingen had a slow start, not able to get anything going against that Sioux Falls run defense. He only had 6 yards in the first half, which, if that's all he had for the game, still better than at least one other running back for the week, but we'll talk about that later. Late in the first, Charleston pinned Sioux Falls on the one with an excellent punt, but thanks to some electric running by Hart, Sioux Falls was able to take a 16-play drive down the field. However, they only came away with a field goal. The very next drive of Sioux Falls, they drove the ball downfield methodically, and Hart pounded it in for a touchdown. Right then, it looked like Sioux Falls was finally going to get off the 0-4 train. Sioux Falls defense, I mean, they were just dominant in the first half. They kept them shut out. They kept Charleston shut out the whole first half. However, coming out of the second half, Charleston looked to have figured things out on defense, holding Sioux Falls to a 3-and-out. Then Swearingen comes out of the gate, more than doubling his yardage total with the first play for Charleston. Then he more than doubled it again a couple plays later, setting up a TD Drew to tight end Jay Taylor touchdown, finally breaking open the seal for Charleston to finally get rolling. However, it looked like Sioux Falls was going to try and keep it out of reach by adding another field goal to their total. The preceding drive, TD Drew had led the game with tendonitis in his left knee, which spelled trouble for Charleston. However, Warren King, the backup quarterback with Swearingen's help, played a serviceable game, leading them to a field goal on the next drive to close within 3. Then the defense of Charleston comes up, a huge interception to put the offense in a 1st-and-goal situation. However, King not TD Drew, and he couldn't get it done. They only managed to tie it up at 13 apiece. On Sioux Falls' next drive, Charleston picks off Tyree again to help keep momentum going. Charleston drove it back down the field with King in the driver's seat. He just wasn't getting much going yardage-wise. However, he got just enough for Amanda Moyer. She didn't need much from him to be able to boot a long field goal to give Charleston the lead. Charleston's defense on the next drive shut down Sioux Falls again, coming away with 2 tackles for loss and a sack by Sabolka to hold Sioux Falls to that 3-and-out and giving their offense good field position once again. However, Sioux Falls defense knew all they had to do was focus on Swearingen, and they put Charleston in a 4th and 15, forcing a punt to finally halt Charleston's scoring streak. Sioux Falls, though, just couldn't get it going against Charleston's smothering defense in the second half and turned it over on downs. King then just needed to manage the clock while already beating in field goal range. Sioux Falls used up all their timeouts, and Moyer added another field goal to make it a 6-point game. It was then on the shoulders of Charleston's defense to close it out. On the run back, Sioux Falls got hit with the game's first penalty, forcing them to start from their own 10-yard line. They started out good, big first downs to Gunner Lewis. Terrazas also got a big first down for them, putting Sioux Falls on the 11-yard line. So it looked like Sioux Falls was going to get back in there. However, Charleston's defense stepped up with 3 big pass deflections to stop Sioux Falls and come away with an exciting victory. Sioux Falls falls to 0-3. I'm not sure if it's a serious hangover from losing 2 championships in a row, or if it was just that Beanie Wells was their lucky rabbit's foot. It's hard to say.
I see a few different things, Mike, actually. We talked about Julian Tyree having to not throw so many interceptions. He only threw 2. He did, throw for 265 yards, which is great. But again, no touchdowns. Swearingen runs for 90 yards. But Colin Hart still another low performance for a guy of that caliber with only 64 yards. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, even you look at where's Drew? TD Drew, he only threw for 97 yards. This whole game, nobody busted out, right? Nobody busted out. I think that's why it was so close.
Yeah, and keep in mind that TD Drew did leave the game, so he wasn't able to do much more. But again, is it just that Beanie Wells was their lucky rabbit? He's not there blocking for Hart. He's not there, blocking for Tyree. And I'm a big fan of Charlemagne Cornelius, but he's just not Beanie Wells.
Well, Jack's data had this game at 41.5. So we're at 30. Where we're at 32 points. So that's within the 10-point threshold we talk about. Here's the thing. Had Charleston favored by 14.5. They didn't even come close to covering that. And unfortunately, SFL Nation, we dropped the last game on Saturday to go 3-3 on the day. we lost 86 to 121. We took Sioux Falls. I think Sioux Falls is in that same position with Louisiana right now, where people are just waiting for them to break out of this and win a game, and it's just not happening. Thank you, Mike. Let me say a couple things about the chat that's been going on. First of all, DR Sim, you already own a team, bro. You don't have to suck up to Cam anymore. Also, what is this about me dyeing my hair purple? I don't have any hair, so unless you're talking about my goatee, I guess I could dye that purple. Maybe purple and gold. I am a Lakers fan. That might work. I don't know. We'll see. Who said that? On the board behind you, it says Bruins, Tigers, and Vols. Okay, so DR Sim. So what you can't see probably in the small print between Bruins, Tigers, and Vols, it says Bruins and Tigers and Vols. Oh my, like like Lions and Tigers and Bears. It's the UCLA Bruins, the Clemson Tigers, and the Tennessee Vols. Those are my 3 college teams. So there's an answer to your question. And Cam, all joking aside, appreciate the compliment that you put in the chat. And let me see what else we got here. Anybody else? Anything exciting before we get to Gunny and his pearls of wisdom? I think that's about. Yeah, Tom, I agree. They're definitely not talking about the hair on my head. And yes, Lake Show, Swole, your outfit next show should be purple, dude. I'm getting like design advice, or what do you call it, from everybody. All right, Gunny, are you around?
Yes, enjoying the chat tonight.
Yeah, it's going a little bonkers in there. It's hard to keep up with while I'm doing the show. Should we just stop the show and do the chat? Maybe, I don't know, but we definitely won't stop the show before you, Gunny. So you can knock it out whenever you're ready. And look at Ray on the ball. She's already got the lyrics in there. Sorry, Gunny.
There we go. Good evening, SFL. Welcome to week 4 of the SFL. Through 3 weeks, week 1, home field was 9-3. Week 2 was 5-7. Week 3 was 7-5. Overall, through 36 games, home field teams have won 21 and lost 15. Dave forgot to ask me what team I thought might be 2-1 to make the playoffs. I'm going to go with Fort Worth Toros as well. I do hope to see Lone Star in Arizona move up the ladder, and congratulations to St. Louis, their first time in history with a 3-0 record to begin the season. And for that, that's a quick version of Gunny's That Is All.
All right, Gunny, thank you for those pearls of wisdom. Yeah, congrats to St. Louis. I mean, first time ever 3-0. We're going to talk about London in a minute too, and I think London, they're 2-1. I think they had one season several years back, or several seasons back, that they went 3-1, if I'm not mistaken. So they've got some stuff on the line coming up this week as well. Moving on to Sunday, first game out the box, exciting game. It's always exciting when Mark Chisholm goes back to Queen City, the team that he started with. Atlanta back in the win column. Bo, was this a game of Atlanta just finally? We talked about last week, just to give you kind of a heads up on this. We talked about on Thursday, was this going to be a game of whoever's style, basically who what do you say, put their will on the other team? Atlanta being, a high scoring offense. Queen City likes to grind it out. 17 points, it almost looks like a grind out game, except that Atlanta scores 27. So did Atlanta's style just end up being the reason why they won this game?
Well, I think it really was, going back to what you said about just imposing your will, because if you think about it, looking at the stats here, the rushing yards that Atlanta put up was only put up 78 yards rushing. Now, we all know who Atlanta has as at their running back position with BDG Hollywood.
Right.
So, Queen City held BDG in check for the most of the game, at least from a running perspective. I mean, he did have 12 pass catches. But from a running perspective, they held him to 76 yards. So, Brian Dynasty had to find another way to win. And he's a bit of a rock slinger. I think everybody knows that, but he'd love to be able to lean on the run game with BDG Hollywood. But Queen City's defense shut that down. So he had to take to the air. And take to the air he did. He ended up with 275 passing yards. He had to throw the ball 43 times to get there, but he ended up with 37 completions, which was a really great completion rate. 86% completion rate, not bad. 2 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception, but Queen City did what they could to try to. I think you could tell they were focusing on shutting down BDG and just not getting beat by BDG. But in the process, they opened themselves up to Brian Dynasty, and Brian Dynasty did what he had to do.
And we know how talented the receiving core is on Atlanta.
Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. And Boot Chisholm, I thought Boot Chisholm was going to be more involved. He ended up with 5 receptions, but Jamal Wooding picked up the slack. He had 9 receptions. Sage Falco was right there too. So they have a phenomenal receiving core. Those top 3 receivers right there, and then of course when you threw in BDG on the little slants that they like to throw to him, there really wasn't much Queen City could do to stop him.
Yeah, I'm wondering about Queen City. I'm gonna look at Jet Zero only rush. He rushed for 88 yards and a touchdown. That's not terrible.
He actually outperformed BDG on the
BDG.
yeah.
Caswell 206. I think it says a touchdown and a pick. As far as the receiving core on Queen City goes, though, he spread the ball around pretty well, right? Matthews with 71, Chris Curtis with 75. Queen City seemed like they played a pretty balanced game. I think at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think they just couldn't keep up with Atlanta's firepower.
Yeah, and what ended up happening is they lost the time of possession battle, and they lost it bad. Atlanta held the ball for more than 6 minutes more, and they just wore their defense out. They just held on to the ball, and they had really good drives. And at the end of the day, Queen City just could not contain that receiving core. Not to say that AJ Caswell didn't do a pretty good job. His offensive line could have done a little bit better job at keeping him protected. They did allow him to get sacked 3 times. He did allow him to throw one. It did force him to throw 1 interception, but it wasn't a horrible game by AJ Caswell by far. It's just that Atlanta did a little bit more to win this game.
Yeah, well, Jack's data had this game Queen City favored by 3, Bo, with an over-under of only 38.5, which, again, that's where I think Jack's data was probably splitting the difference between the grinded-out play of Queen City and the high-powered offense of Atlanta. They scored 44, which is within that 10-point range that we talk about. And we get back on the winning track, SFL Nation. We took Atlanta 128-77 to knock game 1 into the win column, going into game 2, Tulsa at Fort Worth. Before I do that, though, I do want to ask, I won't start with Coco this time. I meant to ask you guys this after Gunny spoke, but here's the other question I wanted to ask you guys, and I won't start with Coco. I'll start with my call this time. The other thing the other information that came from Jack's data, he said also 3-0 teams have always made it in the past 3 seasons to the playoffs. So if you go 3-0 for the last 3 seasons, you have a chance to make 100% chance so far to make it to the playoffs. Based on this data, we have 10 teams. We should have 10 teams clinch of the 3-0 and the 2-1 group that we talked about earlier. Who are your 2 teams from the bottom half of the 1-2 teams and the 0-3 teams, Michael, that sneak into the playoffs?
It's going to be tough here. It's really going to be tough. And I'm thinking for the 1 and 2 teams, Lone Stars is going to right the ship and get into there. They proved it last season, and you guys were so close this last week. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be the ones to get in there.
Tyler Falk, to answer your question, I don't think so, because I got this from Jack's data. I don't know. Bo Martin Jr., of the teams that are 1-2 and 0-3, who sneaks into the playoffs?
Well, this is an easy, at least the first 1 and 2 team. I'm going with Lone Star, of course. I think that's a given. We've had some pretty tough breaks these last couple of weeks, but we'll get it together. We'll straighten that ship out. As far as I'll pick another one just because Lone Star is, in my opinion, automatic. So, I'm looking at Arizona, and I see their ability to put up points. They're right there.
Yeah.
They need a little bit of work on the defensive side to stop the scoring. But Arizona's right there. If they can just find a way to stop the defensive side, I think Arizona's going to be that team to sneak in.
Speaking of Lone Star, somebody in the chat said that I should have a bet with Jacksonville that if we lose to them this week, I have to dye my goatee purple. I don't know about them apples. Slyn, as you look at these 0-3 and 1-2 teams, who gets to the playoffs?
I'm going to jump off the Lone Star bandwagon just for a second, if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'd like to get some different answers. So yeah.
I think I think Carolina have got a chance. I think they've been solid in every game. They haven't conceded a lot of points on the defensive side, and they were only 3 points behind Florida in Florida, who, let's not forget, beat Jacksonville at home as well. They beat Lone Star, didn't perform too badly against Vegas. So I think Carolina can turn some of these sort of close losses into wins. Then they've got a real chance of making it. I think Arizona are another one who, again, I said about London's results against them being a bit of an anomaly for London. Arizona will want it to be an anomaly for them as well. The only issue for Arizona is that they're in a division with Denver, which kind of makes everyone else fight for second place. So that's the only thing going against them.
Okay. Coco, before we get to you, apparently my wife 86 that bet idea really quick in the chat. And DR Sim, I think you and I may have to have another side bet if you think we're going to go 1-3 this week. So we'll talk about that later as well. Coco, 1-2 and 0-3 teams. Who makes it to the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, Slyn had talked about his division, and of course, Carr alone. They're also in a really tough division as well. So for me, the thing is, I'm gonna have to look for a division where I think a majority of the teams can go 6-6. So I'm gonna have to go with Houston at 1-2 because I think it's very possible that Fort Worth and Lone Star are all around that 500 mark come the end of the season. And Houston, once their quarterback progresses week 5 or 6, given the playbook we know Damon can run, that would be my bet. Anyone else worth looking at here?
I find it interesting that nobody really picked Louisiana.
They were going to be my next one. The thing is, I think Louisiana's troubles stem from the offensive line, and the thing is, they don't. They only have Butler there. They don't have someone else developing, and that's something that they had last year. So it's possible if they get in, they sneak in. But again, it may come down to player personnel.
DR Sim, Pink Lisa shut that idea down like Mariah Carey did Canada on Wild and Out. That's hilarious. Yes, to answer your question, Cam, I have dyed my goatee in the past before. Back to my natural brown color. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it again. I might have to do it when Benji comes on because somebody said that me and Benji look too much alike, and I don't want people to think this is the Benji live show or something. So I might have to do it if he comes back on. All right, Slyn, back to you. Tulsa at Fort Worth. I think most people thought Fort Worth would handle this, which is ironic since some of this panel has picked them to not even make the playoffs. Tell me how this game broke down and why you think Fort Worth, more than doubled up Tulsa.
I think it's kind of a mix of Fort Worth playing well and Tulsa shooting themselves in the foot, which seems to be the theme of Tulsa in the first 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a talented roster, and I've always kind of seen them as a potential dark horse getting into the season. But I don't know what it is. They just seem incessantly capable of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. So until they figure that out, then they're going to continue to lose games like this, which are closer potentially than the score suggests. I mean, first of all, just look at the turnover differential. I mean, that tells the story right there, really. But early on, Tulsa were committing early penalties, 2 early penalties in the first drive, which was kind of and again continuing that theme of shooting yourself in the foot. Fort Worth controlled the first quarter. Nacho got an interception. Cameron Curtis was looking confident. Jason Williams was running well. Got a touchdown in the first. And to be honest, Fort Worth probably should have been further ahead. JQ threw another pick in the second to Aiden Davis, giving Fort Worth good field position. And then Espen Real got injured on the defensive side, who was a massive piece on that Tulsa defense, which kind of compounded that issue. And the very next play after he got injured, Jason Williams ran outside left, broke about 3 tackles, and scored a touchdown. So they were already starting to miss Real in the centre there. I like to see Sonso Robinson being used a little bit more because I feel like he's been completely underutilized so far this season. I mean, he's got a contract of 105 and he's barely been used. So it was nice to see Tulsa actually utilizing Sonso a bit more. But because they were playing from behind, it was a little bit of too little, too late. And then we went into the half at 17-3, and then Tulsa just had some red zone issues. They had to settle for a field goal after being stopped at the 1, which if they could have converted that into a touchdown, we might have had a much closer game down the stretch. And then the scoring only continued in the 4th after that. Forworth got a field goal after a long drive stalled at the 3. Sonso Robinson hit a big run in the 4th, but there was more red zone issues, and it was a good drive, but it just ended in a pick for Tulsa from JQ. And then Jason Williams just kind of put the team on his back, and it led to another Fort Worth field goal. And then there was a late pick 6 by Adam Leach, the rookie, as Tulsa was trying to push to get back into the game. And Tulsa essentially got a late pass touchdown, which was a great play, but it was just too little, too late. And those turnovers, Fort Worth were just able to turn the turnovers into points, and that essentially made that 17-point difference.
Hey, real quick, let me ask you this, Lynn. On Thursday, we talked about this game being 2 rookie quarterbacks. Quarterbacks,
Yeah.
The one who made the least mistakes might come out victorious. But the main thing we talked about was JQ already going into this game already had, I think it was 9 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. He threw another 4 this weekend. If he doesn't throw 4 interceptions, is this a different game?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't counted them up, but I don't know how many points off turnovers Fort Worth got, but it was clearly significant. And they were at key times as well, at important times. There was one in the end zone, which could have been a Tulsa touchdown. There was a couple of other red zone issues with Tulsa, and I don't know whether it's because it's a bit of he's trying to force it to Gabriel Manning too much. Maybe he's got that big contract receiver, so he feels like he needs to force it to Manning, even if it's in tight coverage, or whether in the playbook he's just being asked to throw down the field too many times and not just to check it down to Sonso every now and again. But I mean, they need to early in the game. They need to use Sonso Robinson a lot more because he's a good, powerful runner. And I think if they start doing that, then you'll see the turnovers dwindle, and hopefully, for Tulsa's sake, you'll see some victories.
Yeah, I think JQ will have a lot of upside. That's for sure. Jack's data had Fort Worth favored by 7.5. They definitely covered that. Over under half, so 43 points, actually really close. And we go to 2-0 to start Sunday. We took Fort Worth, SFL Nation, 179-29 in the Who You Got moving into game 3. So this is one of my, I think, surprises for the week, Coco. Everybody's been kind of down on DC, including us here at this show. They took a 30-0 whooping from Denver last week. They lost to London in week 1. So I don't think anybody was really expecting much from them this weekend going into Mexico City, a good Mexico City team. But they showed a little oomph, and they showed us something this week.
Well, the thing with Mexico City is they had a rough week 1, of course. They lost. Charleston's a very good team. They lost 17-30. Then it was last week they did pull out a win. They went into London. Again, it was Ramos's defense that showed up in that game that was kind of able to contain London. And London's defense has been getting better. And that's kind of why it was 21-9. A score and a half in that game, the difference. And that's what we saw here was DC has done a good job on defense, considering that they're an entire rookie staff, and their offense is still developing, and that rookie offense is sometimes going to leave them in bad positions, and teams are going to be able to score on them. But they were still able to score in this game. First there was pocket movement against Matt, which is one of the things you'll see a lot. Matt likes to be comfy. He likes a fire and hot cocoa. Nothing to do with me, of course. When he passes the dags, but if he moves a little bit too much in that pocket, sometimes the playbook gets exposed, and he threw for 4 interceptions, which he has in the past. And then on the opposite side, Ramos was able to take care of that rookie quarterback. And I think they had 6 sacks on Synergy. But the numbers, I mean, they were comparable. It was 317 to 326 in the passing yards. I think they both had 3 touchdowns passing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was close. I mean,
the only difference, they both had 3 touchdowns. Matt threw 4 interceptions to 3 for Shabazz. That's the only difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing is people got to remember too is for Mexico City they're running 4 wide receiver sets, which is not something they had last year. They had a O-line last year. They don't have one this year, and that's something with Ramos that we're going to have to see if he can get used to it and adjusting the playbook, getting Mike Daggs more involved. But again, we saw with Mighty last year with the 4 wide receivers. It takes time to get used to it, and Mighty started to get better use out of that 4th wide receiver as the season went on towards the end of the season last year. So it's going to happen sometimes in Mexico City. It's just going to be up and down based on who they face.
Yeah, we talked about a couple of these people on Thursday. We talked about Phoenix Jones really starting to come into his own. He rushed for almost 100 yards again and a touchdown. And we were asking, where's Fox Highwind been the first couple weeks of the season? He answered the call a little bit. He had 6 catches, 83 yards. Didn't score in the end zone, but he had a nice 21-yard gain. He had 6 receptions on 7 targets. So I think Fox playing better for them. I think that's a big plus for Mexico City as well. When you're talking about DC now, though, do you think DC going forward, Coco, follows the format, follows the plan that they took in this game moving forward as opposed to the last 2 games, or are they just still a work in progress?
I mean, sometimes the numbers don't really show how good a team plays on defense, and I think for the first 3 games they've played really well on defense, leaving their offense in really good spots. And granted, they went a little bit more heavy on the passing game in this game. Shabazz had 54 attempts and 35 completions.
Threw the ball a lot.
And and say he put up 71 yards, but he only had 12 carries. So a little bit more limited than I think we're used to him. They used him more of a receiving role this week. He had 15 receptions, Kevin. But again, I think it's just really DC just finding their own on the offense, finding what ratio works for them, finding what plays work for them. It's hard coming into a season with so many rookies to really establish your playbook in that short of time. You guys went through it last year.
Yep, it certainly is. Well, Jack's Data had this game. They had Mexico City favored by 14.5. They definitely did not cover that. And they had an over-under of only 35.5, and they put 65 points on the board, so they crushed that. However, Mike, 3-0 on Sunday for SFL Nation, 189-27 took Mexico City. We start off Sunday 3-0 going into Game 4, which I think was another one of those games of the week. London at Arizona, and here's the deal, Mike All. Arizona, if they don't get that interception at the end, who knows what happens with this, right?
Yeah, this was an exciting game. And yeah, if it wasn't for that LA Las Vegas game, this probably would have been the game of the week. It was super fun to watch. And I'm going to refer to this as the Angus McLean coming out party. London entered this game as the underdog, and deservedly so based on history. And right away they came up and gave a quick turnover, which Arizona turned into 3 points off the boot of Legatron. However, after that, they got settled down and drove back down the field with a 60-yard strike to the incomparable Benji Matson, his first receiving touchdown of his career. which good for him. I'm proud of him. However, London took a big hit as Chad Rowland, trying to earn himself a Diva of the Week nod, had a dramatic death, going down with back spasms and was unable
It's
to return
Diva
the
of
rest
the
of the
Week,
game.
not Drama Queen of the Week, Mike.
Well, either way you want to look at it, Chad was trying to go for it. Arizona didn't get anything else really going in the first quarter offensively. London, however, were able to get a nice 67-yard drive capped off by McLean to Kalia touchdown. In the second quarter, Arizona finally managed to get it going with DJ Moses taking full advantage of the death of Chad Rowland to tear apart London's defense with a beautiful double spin, which I had heard he had been taking ballet classes in the offseason. He broke off a huge 65-yard touchdown run. His pounding the rock also helped lead Arizona to a field goal to pull within one of London. At one point, I saw number 44 for London let a rusher run by him for the sack, maybe in protest to the fact that they had yet to run the ball. London's first run came with under 4 minutes left to go in the second quarter. Their second run came 2 plays later, and it was an untouched walk into the end zone for Merrill. Angus had a nearly perfect passer rating in the first half to go along with 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Arizona came back from the locker rooms almost a whole new team. AJ led them down the field and hit Donnie Hands in the end zone, and then Moses punched in the 2 conversion to tie the game. Angus showing no worries about the pressure from Arizona, though, drove them back downfield, hitting their 4th string wide receiver, Paul Herter, which is good for him. He doesn't really get a lot of action for Angus's 3rd touchdown of the game. Surprisingly, through 3 quarters, Angus was averaging 100 yards per quarter, and he's having the game of his career so far. Ashley also did really well in the 3rd quarter, improving her completion percentage by 18 points with some smart passing. In the 4th, Arizona drove downfield. However, London got a stop on the 1-yard line to hold Arizona to a field goal. On Arizona's next drive, Moses broke one to take the lead 31-28 with just over 3.5 to go. London, not to be outdone though, engineered a huge drive down the field, picking up several first downs off of 4th and 1, 4th and 4, eventually letting Angus hit his 4th different receiver, Robert Merrill, for a touchdown to retake the lead. Angus did really well spreading the ball around all game and really showed that London, much as I said in the preseason preview, was here to play this season. The game ended on a pick 6 by Brandon Ewing. Surprisingly, though, a little bit of history, London has beaten Arizona all 3 times they've played each other. And the fun stat here is the 2 backs in this game combined for 155 yards and 3 touchdowns. However, Robert Merrill only had 5 of those yards.
That's so, the Riddler, who I missed saying his name in the opening this morning or this evening. He must have been running late. He says you lose time of possession, you have 5 yards rushing, and you convert 3rd downs at sub 30%, and you win the game, which is hard to believe. Although then you go over to the stat sheets over here, and you see Angus McLean threw for 421 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and no interceptions. And there's your difference in the game right there, Mike.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting to watch Angus finally get it all put together and no turnovers for most of the game just helped make the big difference there.
Yeah.
It was so fun to watch though. No matter who would have won, it was definitely worth being there for.
This is definitely up there for game of the week, and several potential Diva of the Week nominees in this game on both sides of the ball. Jack's Data have this game of an over-under of only 45.5. They scored 73 points, blew that out of the gate or out of the water. And Arizona was favored by 3.5. They did not cover, and either did we, SFL Nation. We take our first loss of the day on Sunday. We chose Arizona 174-38. That was overwhelming for Arizona. Moving into the 5th, the next to last game, Portland at Vancouver. Bo, I don't think very many people gave Portland a chance in this game, and we'll check the who you got in a moment. But is it just me, or is scoring 5 points in a game really weird?
Okay, so let's be honest. The score is worse. I think this is one of those occasions where the score makes it look worse than it actually was. The score was 27-5. Granted, okay, so let's be honest, the game was never in doubt. You had a safety and a field goal. That was all that Portland could muster. But that in part is the problem, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because Portland's defense actually did a fair job. If you look at the total yards, you can see the Vancouver put up 421 yards with 330 yards passing and almost 100 yards rushing. So you're like, okay, well, that is a lot of yards passing. But when you look at the dominating way in which Vancouver held the ball, and then you shift to Portland's offense, I'm gonna be nice about the way I talk about Portland's offense. So what I'll do is I'll stick to the facts. Portland had 13 third down attempts. Of those 13 third down attempts, they converted 2. Okay, for a 15% conversion rate on third down. Portland's defense did the best that they could. They had Matt South who threw the ball 22 times, but yet he only put up 140 yards passing. He got sacked 3 times. He got intercepted 3 times. The offensive line really didn't protect him as best they could. So the bright side is looking at the defense of Portland's of Portland. Let's look at the defense as the bright side, because they actually didn't play too poorly. I think Portland has some work to do if they can ever get their offense straightened out. They did have, of course, Nelson Lozano did his thing he always does. Art Vandelay with 5 receptions. Jean Valentine showed up with 6 receptions. So they have some things going for them. Ezekiel Love really didn't get going, though, for Portland. He ended up with 60 yards rushing. So that was,
and he did that off of like 20 carries or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
he had 60 yards rushing, but he had 20. So you're talking 3 yards a carry. So if it takes you, 20 carries, excuse me, to get 60 yards, and his long of the day was 16. So he was just pretty much chugging
Wow.
along. So Portland's offense never got going. I think this says more about Portland's offensive struggles, because we all know Vancouver's a really great team. They're going to do well. Robert Redford did his thing like he always does, almost 100 yards carrying, but Portland's got some offensive things they need to figure out.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, giving Portland credit, Vancouver's been scoring like 40 something points a game in the first couple weeks, so holding them to 27 feels like a victory, right?
Yeah, and also too, real quick, you have to keep in mind too that they had they had also had 3 interceptions. Vancouver had 3 interceptions. So Portland's defense now, of course, both teams had 3 interceptions each. But so essentially what it turns out is Portland had equal opportunity to do something with the ball. So
Right.
because their defense was giving them chances, it's just that Vancouver took advantage of the chances they were given, whereas Portland did not.
Yeah, and we've talked about on this show several times, Bo. Matt South needs to get going. He needs to stop throwing interceptions. 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and only 144 yards. Not going to get it done in this league. Jack's data had this game.
Oh, and
sorry, go ahead, Bo.
I was just going to say, John Truzman, no touches, no carries at all, no touches, no passes. No, he was not. I don't even know. Maybe he stayed home. I don't even know if he was in the game.
Wow. Well, Jack's data had this game over under 59.5. They only scored 32. Of course, Vancouver scored 27 of those 32. Had Vancouver favored by 10.5. They definitely covered that. And we're back in the win column, SFL Nation. We took Vancouver 162-47 to go 4-1 on Sunday so far, going into the last game after only going 3-3 on Saturday, going into this Jacksonville at San Diego game. A lot like the previous game we just talked about, Slyn. I don't think very many people giving San Diego a chance to win this game. Jacksonville doubles them up on the score, but does the score do this game justice?
Yeah, I think if there's going to be a game that sort of shows the divide between the teams that are sort of towards the bottom of the league and teams that are towards the top, it's this game. I mean, San Diego made it a game for the first half, at least. It was 10-10 going into the third quarter. But then Jacksonville just showed the class in the third quarter and pulled away. And, San Diego got a late consolation. But other than that, there wasn't really too much to shout about. It was just I mean, we've gone from kind of 2 or 3 games which were potential games of the week and a couple that might be game of the year to a game that wasn't even game of the hour. Yeah.
Well, I don't
You
know.
know,
It was competing with the Vancouver Portland game, so I don't know, bro. They were both kind of
yeah. It wasn't the best way to end the week, put it that way. But Jacksonville went into San Diego, did what they needed to do. Grayson Willis got a touchdown. Jack Wall got a touchdown in the third. The other Willis, Jared Willis, played fairly well, more in the passing game than the rushing game. To be fair, Christian Christensen had one of the best games I've seen him have in ages. Normally he's throwing at least 2 picks, and he's kept it nice and safe. And I think he threw all 4 touchdowns.
he did.
I think the main bright spot for San Diego, and I will give a shout out to Connor Weston, who first of all scored San Diego's first ever franchise touchdown with a huge play in the, I think it was in the first half, and he also got the second one as well later in the game. And I think if San Diego can rally behind players like Connor Weston, who have got something that little bit special about them, and they can keep scores below 25 points, then they can get some wins. But yeah, this game just illustrated the gulf and the sort of the divide between like I said, the playoff teams and those teams that are either expansion teams or teams that are trying to catch up.
Yeah, so Connor Weston is the answer to a trivia question now, which is great. Good for Connor. Here's a question though for you, Slyn. Javier Vasquez throws for 257 yards. He throws 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, which is great for him, right? Second-year player. So is really the difference in this game and maybe the difference in this season for San Diego is just going to be that their defense needs to improve?
I mean, potentially, but I mean, we've got to remember they're playing against Jacksonville, who are one of, I guess most people would say they're one of the better franchises, one of the more established franchises in the league. So from this game, you would say that obviously the defense, Jacksonville's defense played better than San Diego's. But I think overall, I think they've got quite a well balanced team. It's just, the playing team's tough. It's just having that extra special spark to have the big plays at the right moments to get over that hump and win those games. And I think they'll do it. I think they'll get at least 2 or 3 wins this season. I just think they just need another season or 2 of development to be able to compete for the whole 60 minutes with the likes of Jacksonville.
Yeah. DR Sim in the chat, not every quarterback can play versus Jacksonville and not throw a pick, which is true, DR. But what I think is even more impressive is when CeCe is really on his game and throws 4 touchdowns with no picks. That to me seems like the difference in the game. Although that Vasquez to Weston connection starting off early in San Diego is a good thing for them to look forward to. Ada had this game at an over-under of 38.5. So they blew that out of the water with 51 points. Jacksonville was only favored by 7.5. They covered that. And we end the weekend in the win column. We took Jacksonville 173-34 to finish 5-1 on Sunday, 8-4 overall. Not bad, SFL Nation, in the Who You Got. Let's jump right into, we're running a little behind, so I want to get through this. We're going to jump into our Diva of the Week nominees. There are a lot of potential nominees. There's a lot in just like 2 of the games. The LA Vegas game and the London game seems like they would have a bunch of them. So, Coco, let me start with you. Who is your season 16 week 3 Diva of the Week nominee?
I like to go fast, so I don't take a lot of time when I'm talking about stuff. So listen, there was a lot of crap that happened. So I'm gonna say, Dave, when you had your first catch in the SFL, do you remember what it was?
I remember my first touchdown. I'm not sure I remember. My first touchdown was against Mexico City. I don't remember my very first catch, to be honest with you.
Okay, so let's say that your first catch was a touchdown.
Okay.
Would that be impressive?
it would be extremely impressive.
So let's say, what if your first interception was a pick six?
That would probably be even more impressive.
So my Diva of the Week is Adam Leach from the Toros, getting a pick six for 71 yards.
Okay. Which is the Diva moment in and of itself. All right. Moving on to Mike All. Mike All, who is your season 16 week 3 Diva of the Week nominee?
So here's a little tidbit that most people don't know. In the Florida game, Ethan Sneed actually went up to Mighty and said, "Here, hold my beer, bank shot," before he kicked that little doink off the left upright to put it through the goalpost. So for that, he gets my Diva of the Week nod.
He gets the doink is for the Diva. All right.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. Bo Martin Jr., season 16, week 3, Diva of the Week nominee for you is who?
My nominee is a guy who he went out and his team has been pretty underrated. They're flying underneath the radar, and they really tried to get the rushing game going. In a rushing game, they couldn't get it going. So he said, "You know what? No worries. I'll put the team on my back. I'll throw it as many times as I need to." So he goes out and he throws the ball 41 times. Guess what his completion rate is? 95%. How about 40? How about 41 attempts with 2 incompletions? A quarterback rating of 142. QBR of 142. He throws for 421 yards that game with only 2 incompletions, and that is none other than. And I know I know that some people have been rough on him, so let's give him some love. Let's show some love to Angus McLean.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, that whole performance is a Diva moment, if you ask me. Slyn Shady, moving on to you. Who's your season 16, week 3 Diva of the Week nominee?
So, Dave, I feel like if you think about characteristics of a diva, defiance is one of them, right?
Absolutely.
If someone says something, going against it, yeah.
Yep.
Well, LA were like coming out, right, we're going to score 54 points on Vegas, okay? Which, as a defensive player, not proud of. But then you've got, on the other side of the ball, John Blades just saying, no, that's not happening. I'm going to score 4 touchdowns myself and drag this team through this game on my own with 14 catches, 325 yards as a receiver. I can't remember the last time a receiver had a game like that. I mean, maybe Cam can, but I mean, I'm gonna have to rack my brain to even think
it's been a while
of
for
anyone
sure.
getting close to that kind of game. Over 23 yards per reception. To have 14 receptions and still get over 23 yards per reception and 4 touchdowns is just plain ridiculous. I mean, the guy's just had a ridiculous game, and as a wide receiver, the biggest prima donnas in the whole league. Can we go anywhere else but John Blades?
That's a great pick, actually. Okay. Gunny, you still around? You with us before we get to Eagle and Wink?
Yes, sir.
All right, Gunny, who is your season 16, week 3 Diva of the Week nominee?
Leading his team to its first ever 3-0 season record, and what most would say an upset at Louisiana, I'm going with Colin Davis.
Ooh.
Or Colin Douglas, sorry.
Colin Douglas, yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. 3-0, yeah. Good idea. Okay. Eagle, you still here?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
You wait. You have to go feed Elsie soon, or did you already do it?
On it, but I got like 10 minutes.
Feed me,
sweet.
Daddy.
All right, Eagle.
Jesus
Oh, you gotta love Winks impromptus.
Yep.
Eagle, give us your season 16, week 3 Diva of the Week nominee.
Yeah, so we're heading to that wonderful game that Coco talked about, the Los Angeles Vegas game. I'm selecting Ryan Yosef, strong safety for Los Angeles, especially because of his 3rd interception when he decided to just throw the back judge 96 to the ground.
That was great.
For the pick. And then he also had that interception return for a touchdown. But I'm going with Ryan Yosef for throwing the back judge to the ground.
Awesome. That is definitely a Diva moment. We love when referees get run over and thrown around. like rag dolls. Let's see. Wink, are you here?
I'm here. I think I'm here.
All right. Who's your season 16 week 3 Diva of the Week nominee?
All right. So hear me out. You guys can take all of your stats and you can be great runners up. It's beautiful. I am going with the man, the myth, the legend, Benji Matheson. Not because he went 6 for 6 for 103 yards and his first touchdown, but because my man goes up one-on-one coverage, catches the ball, runs it back to the house 60 yards, breaks not one, but 2 tackles. He jumps up, catches the ball, gets on his horse, tucks his lance to the side, and just drives to the end zone. Gets to the end zone, throws the ball like, I don't need this shit. And then he takes and he plants his sword and says, Chad, I'm ready to be knighted. This is my coming out party. And this isn't the first time he's been in the end zone. He's been in the end zone before. He knows what it feels like. But this is the first time in his primary position as a tight end that he's found the end zone. And he is ready for anything that anybody's got to come at him for the rest of the season. So that would be my Diva of the Week. Mr.
Benji Matheson again. Wow.
Hey, Dave, I need to add to that. Because if you go back and look at the play, and this goes back to my Diva of Angus McLean, and Benji was the second half of that Diva moment. But if you watch the play, you can see that Angus had laser eyes. He saw a ref cut across the ankle.
Yeah.
And what happens is Angus had the wherewithal to use the ref as a screen to give Benji the window he needed to make that amazing catch. And Angus threw a dart 30 yards in the air. 30 yards in the air, and you can literally see the ref. It happened at like 7 minutes and 21 seconds. Play it back. You can see the ref duck out of the way of Angus's laser, and Benji snatches the ball and takes it the other 30 yards for the touchdown.
He may have thrown a laser, but he threw it right at the DB. Benji, my boy, had to go and bear wrestle a man to get that ball. And then after bear wrestling him, the dude tries to tackle Benji, and Benji's like, what are you doing?
Hey, have you guys ever played that game like Apples to Apples back in the day or whatever, where you get to argue your point? I think that's how Diva of the Week's going to be from now on. I'm going to have to budget like 5 extra minutes on this, I think. All right, so we got Benji Matheson. All right, so that's 7. That leaves 1. As always, I have a hard time. There's always just so many great plays and so many great players in this great league of ours. And the last couple of weeks, I've narrowed it down to 2. This week, I narrowed it down to 3. If you remember on Thursday, I predicted that Iverson Gamble would get another pick 6 to have pick 6s 3 games in a row. I picked the right game. I just picked the wrong person on the wrong team. So I considered Brandon Ewing for his 63-yard pick 6 to ice the game for London against Arizona, but I'm not going to go with Brandon. Then I thought, wow, LA 3-0. What a great game against Vegas. Game of the year so far. Maybe Tom and Ray deserve a little bit of love. And they do deserve a little bit of love, but they don't deserve Diva of the Week. That brings me to my nominee, which should put all of the rest of these other 7 to rest. And this should be a landslide victory because this guy didn't have good stats. He threw for 251 yards. He threw 1 touchdown, and he threw 2 interceptions. But what did he do? He went on social media, and he said, I'm not a scab. I'm a winning quarterback for a team that's 3-0, and I'm calling the game, and I'm saying we're going to win ahead of time, and I'm putting it on social media, and I'm putting it in Discord. I'm calling my shot, and guess what happened? He nailed his shot. CB12, the scab, Christian Brown, Diva of the Week, Racket. That's it. Done. All right. I guess we can go on to the show now. Moving on to After Dark. As you know, lately I'm sorry.
No, we're not.
Is Tyler in the house? Is Tyler in the house? I didn't even see his name in the Discord. Is he here?
He was.
Oh,
He's here. He's here.
All right. So before we get to Slim Shady and After Dark,
Mr. 2 and 10 is here.
Mr. 2 and 10. Wow. Oh, hey Ramos, you can play the show back on Twitch if you want to hear me again. It's okay, bro. All right. Sorry about that, Tyler. I didn't actually see you in the green room.
Well,
Anyway.
I just let myself into the showroom. I just picked up my brown paper bag for me that has 2 and 10 written on it, throw it on my head, and walked in. That's all I had to do.
You know what? I must have been blinded by the 2 and 10 sign. My bad. All right. So here's as everybody probably knows now, just a quick reminder. Every Tuesday we do a little 1-minute segment next on Netma, so Tyler can let you know what's coming on his show tomorrow night at 8:00. So Tyler, take it away.
Next, on a very special episode of Netma, Ashley Jackson, Rochelle Colston, and Kendra Hall join me for the first ever female Full House. We'll talk about how they have made an impact on the league and the importance of equality in the SFL. Sioux Falls Flat, what 0-3 means for the Sparrows and Revolution, and the biggest announcement in Netma history to this point. Tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern to find out what happens on Netma.
Thank you, Tyler. Everybody, see you guys tomorrow at 8:00. Before we get to Slint, a couple things in the chat real quick. Yes, Crazy Eights 2000, which is Dwayne. You're making my vote tough this week. One of the other reasons that I didn't go with Brandon also is I think that would have given them 3, and they would have had to split their vote too much. So, and let's be honest, CB12 deserves it. He deserves to win it. What is Cam saying? One thing is always certain on Access Live. He'll always apologize after completely forgetting about Tyler and act like it's okay. It is okay. It is okay. Trust me. All right. Going into After Dark now. As you guys have noticed, the last couple shows since we started the season, we have the show, and then we try to have somebody on After Dark. We had Nelson Lozano on last week. This week, and I'm trying to get content creators on here so everybody can maybe hear about some of the content they haven't read or heard yet, or maybe they don't know about. We had Nelson on. We also had who do we have on? It was Hacker and Mark on for the stats team. Tonight, I've asked the head of written content for the SFL, Mr. Slyn Shady, to stick around so we can talk to him and pick his brain about all the written content in the SFL. So, Slyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Only an hour and a half in, no welcome prior to that.
Well, I gotta spruce it up a little bit. So, let me first ask you to let everybody know, what is it exactly that you are responsible for? Is it all the written content? Is it only some of the written content? Is there certain articles you need to tell us that you oversee? How does your position with the SFL break down?
I guess I'm the grand overseer of the written content, I guess. So it used to be that I would edit and publish all of the content. I wouldn't necessarily write it all, but all the beat writers would send it to me. I'd edit it and then get it published, in theory, to the correct schedule. And it's a busy thing. It's it's a sort of an everyday thing, really. And then now I do that with some articles, but then Mike Gall, who I've noticed everyone keeps loving on his smile at the minute, which is nice to see. He's helped out. He's helped out with the Player of the Week article, so he's editing that and he publishes that, which is great because it's such a good help to me. And then we're getting. I don't know. It's interesting. We've got sort of quite a big team of people, and I think my main task is just getting everyone and making sure that we get everything out at the right time and keeping everyone on task and making sure that they don't forget to send me something, or if they're having any problems, I'm there to cover them and write. So I do less of my own writing now and more editing and more just covering people if they need to have a week off or something like that. So most of the articles you see will be either published by me or you've got the Player of the Week article published by Mike.
How many people would you say you have helping you on all these articles right now?
I mean, there's so many facets to it. So, and the graphical side of it has become much more of a thing recently. I got into this back in season 10 when I first started, and I became a beat writer, and it was quite new at the time. And then I essentially had the position I've got now, and we had quite a sort of an organised team, but they were all just writers. Whereas now we've got writers, people who help out just collecting stats for Ashley Jackson's Player of the Week article. We've got people who do graphics. Oh, I mean, on the power rankings alone, there's 9 people involved with that, just on
Wow.
the power rankings article. So I'd say upwards of maybe 15, 16 all told, just to get the current articles we've got out now. And what's been great is people coming into the league who are still quite new, someone like Josh Farnsey, for instance, but they've got a talent, they enjoy writing, and they've come to me and said, you know what, I want to contribute. And we've had a nice influx of new voices and new faces doing the content for us, which is great.
So, other than the Player of the Week and the power ranking, what other articles are they and are you responsible for? Do they come out weekly? Do they come out monthly? Do they come out every couple of weeks? Bi-monthly? How does that work?
So we've got the staples. I've got the power rankings. They come out every Friday. We've got the Player of the Week, which should be scheduled for Wednesday if it's on time. We've got obviously there's the Jack's Data guys. They publish their article. We've got and then we've got some that are going to be either quarterly or tri-weekly or bi-weekly. So Josh Farnsey's got a rookie article looking at the performance of rookies through the season. Me and I think it's Tony, otherwise known as Merrick Itera in Vegas. He wants to do a quarterly look at the Player of the Season races, so that'll be coming out soon. And I'm definitely forgetting at least one. There's another one probably that's sort of. I know last season we had the Keys to the Game article that me and Cliff Grizzly did. Obviously, Cliff isn't with the league anymore, but that's something we want to try and sort of fit in somewhere. The hardest thing now really is because there's so much content. It's just fitting in a good time to actually post the thing, because obviously we've got so many podcasts now and so many articles that go out that just trying to find the schedule and manage that is probably the trickiest thing at the minute.
So, as you have now become the head of written content, you weren't before, but then you were before that. Take us all through. You mentioned a few minutes ago, how you did articles back in the day. Tell us what transpired. What's the roadmap that got you to being head of written content for the SFL?
So back in season 10, the deputy commissioner, who was DPP at the time, he kind of headed up the beat writing team, and I think he just asked for people who were interested, and then a few of us put a name down, and we got sort of put into a beat writing channel, which is now the content team channel, and there was maybe about 7 or 8 of us, and the way that I got made head of written content at that time, I forgot what the name was, but it was just basically Dep Commish just had too much on his hands and wondered if, I think there's me or Ray Bentley who he asked, and just asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said yeah, and he asked me because I was reliable with the articles I was writing, and it seemed like they were doing fairly well with the readers. And it was quite a simple process, really. And then it was just about managing the team and sort of coming up with ideas in the off season, coming up with ideas for off season articles, and then transferring to articles within the season, and just making sure there's a steady stream of content for people to enjoy. And then I took a bit of a backward step because of things and my own life and stuff, and things just getting a bit on top of me. So I had about a year where I didn't do anything, and then I think Cam put an ad out which Jeff Garnier got the head of digital content. Pretty sure that's his title. So he's technically above me in the hierarchy. And I just sort of when Ray Bentley left the league for his hiatus, I just kind of started publishing articles because I knew how to do it. Because there's a sort of the editing part of the website that you have to go to, which not many people have got the login details for. I just started editing and publishing articles again, and I kind of just fell into the job that way this time. And here I am still doing it. So yeah, I think if basically for anyone who wants to start writing, it's just about showing intent, showing willing, and having a passion for it, really, and we'll get your stuff out.
Yeah, I think everybody, I could probably speak for the entire league when we say thank you for stepping up in Ray's absence to make sure that all of this stuff continued and went steady. As people are chiming into the chat, it's kind of funny. Art says he reads your articles with a British accent. Ray actually wants you to read the articles to her.
I can do it. I can do audio. I can do audio tapes.
There you book. There you go. Book on tape by Slyn Shady. If there's people out here that are not involved in the content team or the written content, how would they get involved? Do they just get a hold of you? What's the process?
Yeah, so that literally just DM me and show an interest. And usually what I try and do now, in the past when we struggled for writers, we kind of just, I don't want to say we accepted everyone, but we gave, it's kind of right, we'll just add you to the team. Whereas now, I feel like as the league grows and as we've got more and more content creators, there's sort of a standard we want to set. In my head, the way I want it is, I'll look at the that other league that they had a big game recently this weekend. I forgot the name of the league. I think the Buccaneers might have won. Anyway, I looked at their website and just kind of thought, right, if we can emulate that in any way and have articles that are similar to the ones that the professional writers do, then it'll be a good thing. So if you get in touch with me, we'll probably, you can either ask to do a particular project, or you can, if you've got an original idea, great, pitch it to me and we'll talk about it. I'm open to any kind of idea, no matter how sort of outrageous or we have, Ray Bentley, he's used to doing outrageous articles. We've had them in the past, and we're happy to publish them. We might do a trial article where you sort of send it to me, and I can kind of see what your writing style's like, and then just go from there. But don't think that if you find writing particularly difficult, or you feel like you're not the best speller or something like that, that's where I come in. So if you're not the best speller, don't be put off, because that's my job to edit it and make sure that everything's correct before it goes out. But if you want to do it, then the main thing is just to try and be reliable. I guess that reliability is the main asset you can have in that beat writing role. So if you can't honor the articles you set out to do, then just sort of think twice about it and think, right, is there a way I can do this where I can actually do it consistently rather than just it being more sporadic.
Before I let you go, I do want to ask you. I can't let you go without asking about Vegas.
Okay.
How you feeling about Vegas? How'd you feel about that crazy game this week against the LA? And where do you see Vegas in the upcoming weeks? And do you think you guys are a playoff team?
I think initially, it's much more positive. We're 2-1, which, I mean, it's always good when you're above 500 anyway. And to answer the playoff question immediately, obviously, yes, I think we are. And I think the fact that we've got a road win early is huge, because you find, if you can win your 6 home games, which every home game, unless it's I don't know, if we just go on the typical teams like DC, who we see at the bottom of the power rankings, they're at home to Denver, you'd expect Denver to win. But if you're a team like Vegas, especially with, as you say, Dave, we've got the best home field advantage in the league.
Absolutely.
We should expect to win every home game. So if we can win them, and then we've already got an away win on the road, and again another one maybe, then I think we're in great shape. I think the general feelings. I mean, our issues last season were red zone issues,
Red zone, yep.
third down, and just not scoring when we're in those. A bit like Houston against you guys. I know Houston won, but Houston struggled in the red zone and just kept settling for field goals. That seems to have been addressed, which is a great thing. I know we had the crazy game with LA, but to be honest, I think LA are a much better team than people give them credit for, and I think people are starting to realise that now. But to go there and score 44 points. If we score 44 points every week, I'd expect us to make the playoffs. Put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel good, and there's a really good atmosphere around the place. That the new guys we've brought in over free agency and in the draft have been really good, a real sort of burst of energy. And when I joined Vegas last season, I said I had a 3-year plan, a 3-season plan to get us into the playoffs and to build the roster to a point where, Vegas always had a bit of an issue with retaining players, and I wanted to get to a point where we were kind of aiming to be like Sioux Falls or Denver, where they retain the players, 90% of the players each season. And I think we're getting there really well now, and it's a really tight knit group. So it's all positivity at the minute. It's all positivity.
Awesome. Real quick in the chat, Cam said that you had asked earlier about receivers with more than 325 yards receiving in a game.
Yes.
He doesn't have the last 3 seasons readily available, but prior to that, prior to season 12, he says 3 players had more than 325 receiving yards in a game. DR Sim did it once, James Cooley did it twice, and Freeman Goodspeed did it once. So it'd be interesting to see what he finds out about since season 12 too.
So if we think about it in those metrics, the fact that the amount of games that have been played in this league, I don't know the amount, but I imagine it's
thousands. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's only 3 players that have done better than that. Surely that means that you're up there for Diva of the Week. Surely, only 3 players. You're the 4th ever player.
Well, I think actually, didn't somebody else do it earlier this season already too, Cam? I believe he says there's 1,413 games, so 1,413 games played in SFL history. He also says Cooley's happened during the season 4 all-pass team, that team that never rushed. Neither of his games, he never had 4 touchdowns in either of those games either. So there's another bright spot. So, all right, Slyn, thanks for being on tonight. Thanks for sticking around. And for those of you listening, if you have any desire whatsoever to participate in the written content team, DM Slyn Shady, and then he'll take it from there and get you started.
I just want to say, Dave, as well, just, if you don't want to necessarily DM me directly and wonder what it's like to work with me, then I'm happy for you to DM one of the writers and get, their views. Even if they don't like me very much, I'm happy to do that because I'm confident that they'll say it's a positive thing. And to be honest, one thing that people don't realize is the buzz you get from just producing this content for the league and seeing people enjoy it. I don't know about you, Dave, but I really get it when I see someone reading, like the amount of people who read the articles and then discussing it in general chat. I actually look for the discussion and have a look to see if people are talking about it, and I get a real buzz from that. So if you're missing something maybe and you think the league's giving something to me, but I feel like I want some more, then just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? That's all I'm going to say. What's the worst that can happen?
Right. Well, you definitely get a lot of chat in Gen Chat over the power rankings and over Player of the Week. People definitely discuss those, Slyn. All right. Hey, also real quick, I was just saying, Cam also said Goodspeed's game was also 4 touchdowns, but that was way back in season 2. Season 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember as well that those games in the early seasons were against defenses with less star players.
Yep.
Just as a side note.
I agree.
So
I agree that it's harder now to do that stuff. I agree. So I think John Blades definitely deserves a second place in Diva of the Week voting this week. So, all right, Slyn, thank you, bro. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you staying up extra late for us. I'm glad you got that nap in earlier. And again,
I needed that.
I know you did. Hey, real quick, as I'm starting to wrap this up, as we're starting to sign off, let me mention Eagle already has the Diva of the Week poll up in the Access Live server. He put it up almost immediately after we did the nominations. So that's up. Again, there are 8 nominees. Adam Leach, Ethan Sneed, Angus McLean, John Blades, Colin Douglas, Ryan Yosef, Benji Matson, and of course, the scab himself, CB12. So I want to special thanks to Slyn Shady for staying up and doing kind of a twofer, killing 2 birds with 1 stone this week. Thanks to Bo Martin Jr., Mike All, and Mike Percoco. Before I actually sign off, though, Coco, what's the deal with the hats tonight, bro?
Cam was doing a lot of complaining in the chat, so I showed him my hair, then I showed him an SFL hat, and yeah,
Dude, get used to it, bro. All he does during this show is complain. Like 90% of it is just him complaining. So just get used to it.
You should see my DMs. It's
I can't even. Oh, dude, I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. Also, thanks to Eagle for getting the Diva of the Week stuff going and running the Access Live Discord server, and of course to everyone's favorite producer Winkler for running this whole show and putting in all the impromptu things like team records and making people disappear and censoring people. And you know what? He actually instituted to start on this show tonight the You're Muted Bro counter, and we didn't even have a single You're Muted Bro tonight. We almost had one. I thought I almost had one with Coco near the beginning, but we didn't have a You're Muted Bro night. And there it is. Look at that. So that's what it would have looked like. And throw the counter up one more time, Wink. And then right above Coco's head would have been the counter. So I'm going to have to get some worse panelists on this. People who mute their mic or something that aren't so good and so professional. So anyway, always special thanks to everyone in the chat. You guys know, I love you guys. I love reading all the comments. Even Cam's, believe it or not. I love the banter. I love the back and forth. I love the questions. I love the corrections. The whole 9 yards. So keep it up. And like DR said earlier, chat was definitely on fire tonight. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for staying active. I really appreciate that. So in the meantime, tomorrow night, Wednesday, 8 p.m., NETMA. And then Thursday, I believe it's at 6 p.m., AJ has her show with 2 of my panelists tonight on it. I believe Mike All and Bo Martin Jr. will both be on her show Thursday night at 6. And then, of course, we will see you Thursday, 9 o'clock on Twitch, a little less than 48 hours from now, as we preview Week 4 of the SFL, and you get to see the newest and latest power rankings. So once again, thank you to everybody involved in the show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. See you in about 48 hours. In the meantime, have a glorious 48 hours as everybody's waving and saying, oh, you just censored Mike Hollis. He was trying to do a Brady Bunch wave to me. That's hilarious. Anyway, have a glorious 48 hours. And on Thursday, I will see you at the T.